Welcome to another segment of Real Spill. This is Charlie's World production. My name is Charles Michael, and I'm gonna finish telling you about my life story. So after I finished dealing with Andre, and the situation fell off, I ended up coming with another plug, and then that plug took me off into another adventure. My sister started messing with this guy we call CJ. May he rest in peace. CJ was one of the guys because at that particular time, crack had came into existence, and it was real big. And he was one of the guys who was able to cook up a lot of the work and stuff. And we used to go down to a girl named Shayna house, who we used to go, and I used to have them cook up birds at a time. And we would cook up the work, and I would take it and sell the work. People were buying different stuff, houses and all kind of stuff. I was selling that and selling birds and stuff. So I was being able to make so much money that I was able to basically do exactly the things that I really wanted to do in life. So, I kept on growing and growing and growing until that faded out, until I was just selling work. I was just selling whole things. And once I got to that point where I was just selling birds, I would sell the work to all of the different people that I knew, and we would just make money and do the things that we really wanted to do. But at that particular time, I ended up coming with another friend. His name was Chicken. He was one of the guys that was older than me. He grew up with my brother and them, but he was another person that was knew a lot of people, man. He knew a lot of people. I mean, all across Oakland and different places like that. And I knew a lot of people too, but he knew a lot of people as well. So me and him, he was my right-hand man. So we used to make money and do all the things that, hustlers do. And his cousin had this club called the Windsurf, and we used to go there on weekends and just hang out. Well, he used to be there as a bodyguard. That was one of his part-time hustles. And he would go there and he'd be a bodyguard, and he'd sit there and all that. And I would come up there and hang out with him sometime because I lived in Richmond too, but I lived in El Sobrante at that particular time. And this was in Emeryville, so it was close. So I would go over there and we would hang out and do things like that. But one time he was working, and we had just got through hustling, and he had I think 5 birds or something like that. And I went to get the money, and he told me that he had took it home. He had took it to his house, and that I said, okay, well, I'll just get the money the next day. But come to find out, he ended up with this broad, I don't know, this girl, whatever. I think he showed off or whatever. He showed her the money. He was high-siding or whatever. But somebody broke into his house, man. Somebody broke into his house and stole like $50,000 out of his house. And he called me because once he came from the club, I think he had took the girl there before he went to the club and messed with her. And then once he came back from the club, his house had been broken into. And they and he hid the money real good, but they searched his house thoroughly and found that it was in the trash can. But anyway, they took his money. They took the money, and he was asking me, what we gonna do? I said, man, you gotta pay for it. I told you I wanted to come and get the money, and you told me that you had took it home, and then you was working. So I said, okay, I'll get it tomorrow. So anyway, to make a long story short, he only was able to pay me like, I believe, $25,000. I ended up paying the other $25,000 of the money. I had to get that money to the Connect. But me and him, we was able to straighten it out. He paid it off slowly but surely later on as we kept on hustling and stuff like that. But he and I was at a restaurant up there in, I believe in Diamond Heights. I can't think of the name of it. But the guy that I ended up losing the bet with, Andre Martinez, we was all going to the fight. I think Evander Holyfield and Razor Ruddock, one of them fights we was going to. And we was going on our way going to the fight that weekend. It was a Friday, and we was up there eating. And we get a call and said that Anthony had just got killed. Andre had just got killed. So we all shocked, amazed. So we get out, and I go down there and find out he's at San Francisco General. So I go down there, and they said, and people in the parking lot, my partners, a lot of my friends down there, we all down there, we crying, they crying and stuff. And I said, well, yeah, he said he's up there, he's in on the third or fourth floor or whatever, but they won't let nobody in. That's not his family. So I went up there and I told him I was his brother, and they let me in. And when I went up in there, his brother Steve was up in there, and he was laying up in there, man. He was deceased, man. He had a hole in his head, man. But come to find out, but the guy that ended up doing that to him was a guy that the girl that he was going with, he ended up having a child by that lived in Two Rocks. He was going with this guy, and he got up on him and see that Andre was getting money, and he tried to rob him and put him in the trunk. And Andre jumped out of his own trunk because he knew how to pick it. He jumped out and got away, but he hadn't seen the guy. After that, the guy quit coming around the mother house. He stopped messing with his girlfriend's mom. So he hadn't seen him. So he was going over there in Lakeview getting his hair cut, man. And Anthony was in there, and Anthony had got his hair cut. When he got finished, as soon as he got the chair, here come the guy. The guy came in, and he sat in the chair, and then Anthony said some words to him, and he said something back to Anthony. So Anthony made a call, and Anthony called Chicken and told him to bring him to bring him a gat. And he brought him a gat, but he didn't stay there. He just handed it to him. Anthony didn't say nothing. He said, just give me the gun. He gave him the gun. So he gave him the gun, and Andre, they say he opened the door at the barbershop. The guy that he had got into it with, that tried to rob him the first time, was sitting in the barber's chair with the robe over him and stuff, and dude was getting ready to cut his hair. And he opened the door and he told him to come outside, and he had the gun pointed down, and everybody was standing back, and all the people in the barbershop, and Anthony told him to bring his ass outside. And Duke said, man, come on, man. And I said, bring your ass outside. And he kind of pointed it toward him. He went to lift it up, and dude got up out the seat like he was coming out. And when he came out firing. He had a gun up on this thing, and he came out firing. And one of the bullets ended up hitting Anthony and knocking him through the door. Andre, excuse me, but he knocked him through the door, and the gun fell out of his hand. And he said, he told you I don't want to mess with you. And he pointed the gun at his head, and Andre put his hand over his head like that, and he shot, and it knocked part of his pinky finger off, and the bullet went through the side of his head and blew his brains out the back. And he got out, and he took the ring and shit. The ring came off. He took the ring, and he left. And when I got up there, he was laying up there, man. He was like he was asleep, but he was all messed up, man, and it just tore us up, man. We was all upset about this, and the guy just disappeared. We hadn't heard, seen the guy no more, none of that. But that was one of the losses that I took, coming up in the game, and it took us a while to get over that. We kept on pushing, and then, me and Chicken, we kept growing and doing what we was doing, and we ended up on a spot where we ended up down there on Hudson, which was one of his cousins' old man's wife. Well, she wasn't his wife at that particular time, but she ended up becoming his wife, and we was hustling at her house and stuff, and we selling work, and when people was going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. So one of the property managers, he was an ex-hustler. He was hating on us, so he started complaining about it. But anyway, he started complaining about it, and so we had to slow down a little bit on it. But we was making so much money and stuff like that, and we kept on doing what we was doing. And I had another little partner. He came through, and he would come through and get work. And then one time he was in there. I remember this vaguely. He was in there, and after he got to work, he went and a gun fell out of his pocket. And it hit the carpet. I'm surprised it didn't go off, but it was like a 25 automatic or something. He was a youngster. He was younger than I was. But I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh man, a dude tried to rob me, man. A dude put me in the trunk and took me in the back of Pelton, and I just remember," he said, "I just was just knowing the turns and stuff, so, and they jumped out. I didn't have no money. They jumped out and left me in." He said, "I called on the phone. I had the phone in my pocket. I called and told them where I was at. And I was exactly where they said I was at." He said, "I just kept remembering all the turns the guy was making while I was in the trunk." I said, "Man, that's brilliant." Anyway, he used to carry this gun, and he would come. So I told him, I said, "Man, only person that ever gonna have a gun in this house is me. Don't never come in with a gun, because don't nobody know what you and I are doing but you and I. That's it. So you ain't got to carry no gun. So don't ever come here with no gun, man." So he didn't come there with a gun anymore. So we just kept dealing with him and stuff like that, and until he ended up getting busted. And so after that, Chicken and I, we was just moving work all over the place, all down Palo Alto, from Palo Alto all the way up to Pinole, and we were just hitting everything and in between. We was doing everything. We was even hitting the guy up in Lakeview, but the guys used to be buying guns, some MAC-10s, and Chicken was getting them from him and selling them to other people. And I told him, I said, "Hey man, listen," I said, "it's bad enough we doing what we doing, man. You can't be getting involved in no guns, man." I said, "That's just more of a case for you and me. I don't want to be involved in that, man. You can't be trying to sell guns and sell work, man." And he said, "Man, you right." I said, "Man, you got to tell dude you ain't doing that no more." So he did, and he stopped doing that. But after that, we used to just kept on hustling. It was just a lot of things that we was doing that caused us to just keep growing in the game. He was a very good friend of mine, but one of the guys that ended up being his wife's cousin's friend, he ended up coming into the fold, and we started letting him hustle. And he was a good hustler and everything. But I knew his wife. I grew up with his wife family. So she ended with the one he ended up marrying. So I ended up growing up. He ended up marrying her, but we ended up being close and all that stuff. So we all started hustling together, and we just, sky was the limit. I used to go to all the fights and stuff, and meet all the celebrities and stuff like that. I got to a point where I was going to Vegas so much that I had the VIP to just give me free tickets to come there and stuff, and give me the the VIP treatment. We was VIP in the Mirage, and when the Mirage started open, my Steve Wynn, we was in there. We was a VIP at that time. I used to come up there and I'd be at the fight. I was there when the Fan Man came down. I met the Minister Louis Farrakhan at that particular time. I was very honored to be able to meet him, talk to him and stuff. But the Fan Man, when the Fan Man came, we were sitting by Lou Gossett Jr. and Michael Douglas. I was sitting right next to Lou Gossett Jr. and he was sitting next to Michael Douglas, him and his wife, and we got to know them and all that stuff. So it was real nice, man, just having money and being able to do that. But I was just so impressed with being able to share a lot of the piece of my life and the things that I was doing with a lot of people that I came in contact with, in the streets, man. Everybody, like I said, I tried to put on, because I wanted people to experience just having money and being able to, have the freedom that we never, was able to have. Money was freedom to black people. There still were places that they probably wouldn't allow us to really want to go. But anyway, we still had freedom. Money was freedom. So I was trying to really spread that throughout the community, and that was one of the things that I was very known for.